In this series of candid conversations with lots of different self-employed people, I get down to the realities of running a business and working for yourself. In our very first episode, I chat to Kanndiss Riley, also known as NBE or Notorious Big Energy. Kanndiss is the founder and COO of NBE Fitness, a platform that creates inclusive and accessible wellbeing sessions. I hope that after listening to this chat today, you'll agree with me when I say Kanndiss should be ruling the world.
Okay. So to be cheeky, I am Kanndiss Riley, also known as Aunties in England, which is a TV show I hope will come to the screens one day. All about me.
Exclusive.
I know. All about me being that kind of young auntie. I love doing civil activism, of community engagement. I'm in D&I, I'm in intersectional activism and awareness. And I'm also the founder of NBE Fitness, which will soon become just NBE. And I'm like a globetrotter. So amongst all of that, I kind of use the phrase aunties in England because I travel so much. And so people often are asking me where I am. Where are you based? And I'm like, I don't know. What do you mean by this question? So NBE is an organization I started because my dad has lost his sight and has partial hearing. And I realized that loneliness is cruel to those who are around them. And for those who are also impaired or living with disabilities. But I wanted to know how we could change that and how we could build spaces that help those communities. And to this day, there are amazing charities, don't get me wrong, but the things that mattered to me for the most part was, is there a Black woman who has equity or large a say or shares in this industry? And the answer is no. Are there a high population or a way of actually quantifying the amount of Black women who are in leadership, partners, or have a significant capital in the industry? No. And then last of all, just how many Black-owned businesses are in the health industry that have an opportunity to, at least at government level, dictate or make measures to press for change in accessibility in healthcare? Yeah, they had lists of people who say that they do that as part of their work, but no one who specifically is the founding person who is a woman and Black. And that was very difficult for me to consume in a world where there are so many Black male football players, so many brilliant sports writers or engagers, so many at this moment in time who play or take part in physical activity, or doctors or practitioners. And then to really realize that in the UK at this day and age, we still don't have any real stakeholders when it comes, again, still talking about men, who have invested in the health sector to uplift other minority groups. So I knew this was going to be a long journey. There's been some fantastic movements in like sports attire being owned by Black women, but that's not quite the same stakeholder I'm trying to see put themselves in the space. And there's been loads of great, I say this to be facetious, opportunities for conversation, talking about representation in these spaces and the lack of female representation, even if it's not Black women, it's Asian and white women in those spaces having the right to actually hold their male counterparts. Then we had some really great conversation about sexuality and gender with some of those, again, male football players, talking about coming out, talking about their sexuality. It does mean that a lot of these conversations are surrounded by men taking the forefront and being praised or dishonored for their behavior, but it's starting the conversation going on the lack of representation And NBE is just here waiting. I feel like I say waiting because we haven't been invited into any space yet. And I think I use waiting because I presume that maybe one day we are going to start opening up those conversations for women not to be commentators or having political conversations about it, but rather actually being asked to come in the room to talk about the excellent work they've been doing and signpost and be appraised. But at this moment in time, we kind of have to wait. Yeah.
And that is, I mean, that's one of the, it kind of proves your point, doesn't it? That there's no inroad, there's no clear path, and there's no path of least resistance. That doesn't exist in that. I mean, to excuse
it kind of does, but it would change the whole business. So I've always said to people, you know, businesses with a soul behind it always struggle. Right. So if I had just set up a football coaching club, not shown that it was me behind it, got loads of boys together to teach them football, you know, got loads of really affluent football players to be behind it, and then try and come back round and talk about intersectionality and the need for, you know, what we just seen. This is a great example. We just saw the Euros, right? Euro Cup. England was on the way to winning this, and yet there still wasn't conversation on the way to them winning. It was very clear there's a chance they're going to win, and there was no real conversation about it. I get there was loads of other things going on, but we didn't see male football players who are currently in the game talking about the reason for equal pay. They didn't talk about the need for changing period or menstrual health care, when being an athlete. These are times when they could have done some real allyship and amplified those other players without needing to like create a company. But at the same time, that's what we're talking about here. It's that if Ian Wright, who's always talking about stuff, just created a company, then we'd have the road, because Ian Wright is a man and can create the road and therefore streamline it in a, what's it called, spearheading the way. But what we want nationally, from my perspective, is I want our England winning, Olympic winning female team members just be supported so they can streamline their own road without having to use men to get there, you know? That's all I'm saying.
How is that going with like forging that new path with NBE? Like, how is that going?
I think it's actually been, although tough, it's been great. Like, we've had some conversations. So out here we had CCGs. I can't tell you what that acronym means off the top of my head. I'll send it to you afterwards. But we have CCGs and they're turning into something else G. So they've changed the G stands for group, but they've changed the beginning letters to another type of group. And they're the ones who look after the NHS. So they receive all the money and then they like look at how to use that money. And at the moment, most of the money from government goes into secondary care, which is when you're in hospital. There's not a lot of being put in tertiary or first immediate care. And so for someone like myself, I actually do count as part of the health sphere. People see my organization, i.e., while we're removing the fitness from our name, as just like a gym or something where you bounce around like a Insta bunny. And I'm like, no, I'm not an Insta bunny. I definitely wanted to be the Davina McCall of my generation, and then realize you can't do that anymore because we don't sell cassette tapes, and I don't have her money that she had behind her to do the billboards and the gazillion magazines, you know, churning out that kind of copy. And also, you know, now we're living in 2022 where the special K woman would be frowned upon. Weight Watchers had to change their name. Like, we're in a different era now. So even though I say that having a soul behind your business is tough, um, having that soul means we've been getting into those kind of rooms, going, hey, we count as part of how you use your money. So can we be at the table? Also being like, hey, also we would love to be part of somebody's healthcare plan. How do we get into that? So someone gets diagnosed with fibroids. Do you just ring us up? Do we have to keep calling you to tell people who get diagnosed with Parkinson's to call us up? Like, how do we do this? And so we've been able to talk with a lot of charities about how we do community work, why it's important that they think about intersecting that community work. So to talk to trans people who've had body dysphoria is not the same way you talk to a woman. I'm using this as an example, a cis woman who had cancer. Like, yes, they both have had huge body autonomy changes, but both live very different lives. However, NBE is able to get them both in the same room. So yes, we'd love you to refer people our way, but we need this kind of plan to help that. And so it's been great to have that. It feels like things move immensely slowly. So I think when I found you guys, we were just getting the paperwork and everything together to work with a hospital. We still have not run our first session because we are still doing the work to be like, hey, so how's the ramp going? Got the ramp yet? No? Okay, we can't do our first session until there's a ramp to get in the building, And it's a hospital.
Yeah. Well, some of the most inaccessible places are hospitals. And I think you don't realize until you are disabled how ableist the world, every aspect of the world is ableist. With, I suppose, well, yeah. But anyway, in hospitals, well, you wouldn't expect it.
No, people always say, oh, yeah, but it's an old building. I was like, yeah, but this bit new.
Yeah.
This bit new, so.
Yeah. And accessibility has always been on the agenda of new buildings, but it's been a decision not to include it in architectural design. It's been a decision to leave it out. It's not been an oversight. It's been a decision. So it's a poor excuse when people are like, it's old. And I'm like, there are ways.
And it's not like disabled people just puffed up in the 21st century. They were there when this building was built.
Yeah, and in so many different capacities as well. It's like, geez, it's if only everyone, all companies that started and from grassroots level had this on their kind of even just in their mind's eye when they're creating things, to keep that thought in all strategies, building a business. A lot of accessibility costs more money, but prioritizing within a budget, even tiny little things, the language, inclusive language, and trying to learn and being open to mistakes. So I've done a bit of a consultation with theatres who are working with extraordinary bodies that is a disabled
love them.
So I did a lot of work with them, and so I did this big audit on the kind of communication side of things, and how each team in each theatre that worked with them were writing copy, doing the marketing, and the reason why that a lot of websites weren't accessible in lots of different ways. Accessibility is too much of a blanket term, but let's use it for is because they just didn't know what was right, and so didn't do anything out of fear of getting it wrong.
I go to a hospital, I'm like, the teeny step here, it's called a lip. And they're like, oh, do you have a ramp? And I'm like, as you being the ones who hired me to do this, would either put up my rate because now I'm going to have to drag a ramp.
Yeah.
Or you just get one.
Yeah. In your large budget, you could include a cheap ramp for you. Why must that always go on? Like, that's always pushed onto the person that's asking.
Someone did say to me, again, a man, I was like, yeah, but if you get the ramp, then you can use it at other things. And I was like, but I don't want to carry around the bloody ramp. Well, part of this you're not understanding. Like,
yeah.
Carry the better, I really would like to get down to like just a rucksack.
Yeah.
Because there's so much shit I have to bring with me. So, that's all I was asking.
Yeah. And what annoys me then is that they don't see the irony of their point that they're making there. It is just kind of reiterates what you're trying to prove. Like you're the thing you're telling me to do is proving to you surely that this is a major thing that we need to change. If you're expecting me to carry a ramp around,
and
it's not. I think that so many places as well think that that's just for wheelchair users. That's not the case. Like people, I was in a boot last year for 6 months. I couldn't get up steps. Someone buggy can't get up steps.
But they don't like. Okay, here's the last example of healthcare sector not understanding. So I push my dad around the hospitals when we go, and they had a ramp. But tell me why I'm doing this ramp like I'm going to the gym.
Yeah.
Like it's a treadmill that's just gone up a little bit. I was putting some real arm work in to push my dad up.
Yeah.
Ramp. Like, this is probably either too steep.
Yeah.
Or like I wanted to put some brakes on him because I was like, well, if I let go, woo,
it's screwed. My dad.
You get to use, and I'm just saying, this is tough.
Yeah.
And it's a good wheelchair, so don't come for the wheelchair. It's not the wheelchair, it's the ramp.
Yeah.
And I'm getting around the building. I'm like, this just proves like the level of care into patient care hasn't gone into the what's it called, the modernizing of the building. And so therefore, as I said, it's an old hospital, but then you're like, but this bit's new. So when you were newing up this bit, you went into the old bit and you put chairs right opposite each other. So when you have a wheelchair in there, oh wait, you're not supposed to have wheelchairs down there?
No.
Everybody who goes to the blind clinic will be using a stick or can use their legs. Clearly they couldn't because there was a lady who had a double amputation of her legs, and or she may have been born like that, but nonetheless, let's go with the double amputee. And so my dad is here, wheelchair legs, out. She's here, no legs, but the little wheelchair things. And then this woman comes along with her buggy and she's just looking. She's staring into the abyss of like, how am I?
What's happening?
I'll get through it.
Right, guys.
I'm thinking,
are you ready?
I've seen people with their legs out and thing, and I'm like, nobody here understands accessibility because this is not it. There's not enough walls for the different wheelchairs, maybe a little wheelchair socket every so often so that they could sit near their families and things. You're not stood far away from them because that's the closest place where you could park them up. And what about turnaround space? I had a doctor going, oh, isn't it great that you have your daughter with you? And I was like, oh, he should have a son, huh? Because I swear, this is time when I was really feeling my gender. I was like, this is where I want a man. Yes. This is where I want my woman's rights taken away because I shouldn't have to do this.
I'm fine with that now. You can, do you know what? Leave it up to the men. I don't.
I was there going, oh, this, I'm NBE, but I really feel like I've used muscles here.
Someone get a man to take over.
I was like,
Yeah.
anyone else want to push him around?
Yeah. But it is like I think that it's interesting that we're able to have a laugh about it, which I think is really important. And so many people are afraid of doing that with the fear of offending someone, but you can laugh at a situation and not be a dickhead.
Yeah, we're not being dickheads. Like genuinely, it would have been commonplace a long time ago to rip me of my services to my dad and be like, you need to go sit down now. And the man is here. I will take it from here. And there was a whole lot of me that was like, no, man. No one wants to do this. Even, you know what? Just quick, the really last antidote on it. I passed the guy cleaning the ground. He's mopping up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, this guy's cleaning. The guy literally just stepped to the side. I was like, not gonna move the wet sign. Just leave me to it all.
Trying to get up this hill, not getting anywhere. It's like an obstacle course.
I was like, it's too much liberty now. What? And like he watched me like get around this corner because I had to like pull that a little bit with the wheelchair and stuff. And he was like, oh, well done. And I was like, fuck off. I don't know if it's like first aid or the rules, touching patients and stuff, but that was one time.
Yeah.
I would have been behind you in the HR meeting. Yeah. I'd be like, this was valid. Yeah. You didn't need consent.
Yeah. No need in the situation. You just need to help me across a wet floor.
Oh, a wet floor,
Just common sense, pal. Okay, well, I think what all of this proves is that actually just basic human rights, as in healthcare, is still not accessible in 2022 to everybody, actually. And I think that under our existing government, we might be even more doomed if, we need places like NBE, organizations, communities like NBE, because otherwise the balance is going to tip over into a place that we don't want to happen. But how does that feel? Like, how do you deal with the kind of the weight, I suppose it is the weight of wanting to make that change and wanting that progress, and knowing that it's possible if only the right people listened and actually took the action on board? Like, how does that feel for you every day, thinking, do I keep going? Do you ever think like that?
Yeah, like on a regular basis. So last week I was having a bit of that feeling. I had one session cancelled, and in good time, because one client said that they were going on holiday, and I just can't run a session with only 2 people. So I was like, cool, session's cancelled. But then the next couple of days, I found out another client had injured their back. And one of them said they couldn't make it because of childcare. And then the third one was like, oh, I'm going to come Wednesday instead of Monday. And I was like, I already cancelled Wednesday. So you're not coming?
Yeah.
And then I was down to one person again. And that one person for both Wednesday and Monday are a person with arthritis. And so I know how much it means to them to have the sessions. And so I did the session just with them from my bedroom. And I was like, I'm really sorry about like the inconsistency of this. It's just, it costs 50 quid for the studios, both Monday and Wednesday. And I kind of can't pay for one person on Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had to cancel them, but I'm doing them on my own. And it's difficult when you say that aloud because you feel like, oh, is my company crap? But then you go, okay, let's go and reverse. It's summer holidays.
Yeah, yeah.
Would have loved if some of my clients had told me, hey, I'm booking a holiday. Maybe then I could have like forecasted, let me just go on holiday, do admin. Um, but then on the other hand, last week I couldn't have projected that I would have 2 new customers on both a Monday and a Wednesday, which meant I couldn't cancel. I didn't have the right numbers, but on the Monday, I ended up having a class of 3 with 2 people online, which is 5, which I didn't expect because people just booked. Which also reminds me, it's like, oh, my booking system does work.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
People do not need me to handhold them or to book them onto the session for them.
Yeah.
They can do it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have like 12 people book on to the Wednesday, and then your studio doesn't open because somebody locked it because they thought they were gonna just have a delivery that day and nothing else happened that day, and you're stood outside while you see their delivery looking all happy inside the studio, and you're like, even if I got in there is so much stuff in there.
Yeah.
This would be the session, moving the stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Right, everyone, we're gonna move stuff.
Just to some house music.
Yeah, follow my lead.
And so I know, so you end up telling
Yeah,
people
yeah.
you think it wouldn't be safe for them to do the beach session, that you like we'll do it another time, and you have this amazing beach session, which I'm lucky to have beach right next to my studio. And you just go, okay, this is why I do it. But also can't live on these kind of heart attacks every week. Like, we need some just stability. I just want to go into the studio, bounce around for a couple of hours, and then come home. Like, I don't want those extra stress. So I spoke to both the studios about changing our booking system, that I would pay for them in advance, but if we don't hit 3 people in studio, we will postpone the class because there's just no point running a class with people who haven't turned up.
Yeah. And that's disheartening, right? When you know that this is something that's needed and people want as well. Like, they want it, but sometimes stuff changes or there's a blockage, I think, at the moment. I don't know if you found it, but with in-person stuff, especially, people still struggling to interact in a social environment in person. Whether we're aware of it, I certainly am aware of it, that I feel safe in my own home and I work from home, but like, I also need human interaction, but doing that is really hard. Have you noticed like a change of behavior with people?
So for me personally, I think my customers have always been in that position because like our whole ethos is to people have been feeling lonely and have got used to not be lonely anymore, has taken. That's why like I share the thoughts of what people say to. I just find that they are always saying to me, Kanndiss, I wish that I could just always come, or I really need this because this helps me massively. So it's a bit crap when I can't come. But I then look at that and then look at people who are still in that void of not being able to come. So we have people, sometimes you don't understand it, but you're like, they'll tell you, oh, I can't come because I'm not sure I can leave the kids with their dad. And you're like, this is like a big thing.
Yeah.
And so we have tried to apply for funding so that we can cover childcare costs. It's going to be at a first come first service, and it will be dependent on them maybe even purchasing a ticket. Like, we'll have to think about how we offer that service. And then have applied for another bit of funding to do a group survey, um, um, bringing people together across 6 months to do work groups and complete questionnaires, so we can find the right way to roll out some more kid or family based activities, because we know that in Kent specifically, the children between 7 and 9 are more likely to be obese than any other age group.
Right.
And that's quite a tough subject, because we have so much body positivity. We have the fact that we don't want to ostracize people, because obesity may not be their fault. It could be genetic, or it could be socio-economic. So even though, hey, it's a different world to the world I grew up in, where you could have got 10p beans.
Yeah.
People are still living on beans and bread and food bank supplies, and so that might not always mean they're getting non-saturated foods as an option.
No.
I'm not saying that's what food banks are providing, but we know that some of these kind of systems that are meant to be helping lead people into certain dietary norms that can lead them into unhealthy
Absolutely.
patterns.
Yeah. I was a free school meal kid, and I tell you, the free school meals were not sufficient. One, really, in terms of energy, but nutrition, it also, what it does is create, in my opinion, I can't talk for other people that have had free school meals, but it creates this very difficult relationship around food, because you see food as something that you can't afford, and then it feels like a privilege. And then what happens is similar to when you don't, like, we didn't have much money when I was growing up, obviously, and what happens is when you are restricted, or you're kept from something, then when you're older you want loads of it sometimes. So when you are restricted just because of money as a young kid for free school meals, then what happens is when you have access to more food, or you have this really strange relationship with food, and also you're aware of your kind of socioeconomic status, and like there's shame around food. Like, it's so complex, isn't it?
One of the things that I've had to like really get to grips with is the way that it doesn't end at middle class. So like these conversations go both ways. So I had to like discuss with people, it's not about KFC and McDonald's.
No.
And they're like, yeah, but you know, all the advertisement, but that's not the problem. It's about the fact that my organization runs a Saturday session, which is essentially a day retreat, right? But we can't call it a retreat because people already synonym retreat with being rich. And that's what we try to like bring to their attention, is some of their unhealthy habits are rooted around wealthy culture. So i.e., I'm going to get myself out of poverty so then I can afford to buy steaks. But steak isn't the thing that's going to make you healthy. You know, being able to go on holidays and eat lobsters doesn't mean you're having a healthier life. It's actually just knowing how to actually shop well, be smart with your income is the problem. And so we have like this ongoing debate around what is actually, you know, financial literacy, because for a lot of people that are in a situation where they choose goods over food, that's what could lead people into poor health. Saying, okay, we're not going to pay for the gas, we're not going to pay for the heating because we have to buy uniforms. Whereas, why isn't the school got a system to support uniform care so that parents could choose food over uniforms? You know, choose to heat their house over more school books. These are the kind of things that I don't think people always interweave into that conversation around child obesity.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking, oh, it's just it's taking the coupons from the back of the bus ticket. And they're buying their kids why are they buying their kids those 1.99 meals? I'm like, well, add it up. That's cheaper than most milks.
Yeah.
I get a full meal and a drink.
Yeah.
They seem kind of happy.
It's food.
Yeah.
And that is literally the point it comes down to, is it's food.
Yeah.
And that's what we can afford.
Yeah.
It's the lack of it's not even lack of choice, it's just that there isn't any other option.
Yeah.
And you've got to make those decisions. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I feel like we need to have more of a conversation anyway, but I want to ask more about you as a business owner, philanthropist, and how you started. Like, was this something, were you passionate about change from a young age? Was it your personal experience with your dad alone? Where has your kind of drive come from? Is it personal experience, or where does that come from? Where is it going? Like,
I got into this because I think both my parents were quite socialist, union people. So they were great inspiration for the work that I was wanted to do. They all supported me as well. I was always a little bit of a del boy. So I remember in primary school I did like cupcake selling and like tried to make a little bit of money. Then I went into high school and I did like chocolate fountain, and then I did like they wouldn't do it, I don't think they would dare to do this now, but it was cultural day, so all the black and brown people used to sell our
cultural day.
Wouldn't dare now. Wouldn't dare.
Okay.
Wouldn't dare. Would not dare do it now. But yeah, I used to go with my saltfish friends.
Okay.
Caribbean stuff.
Yeah.
And sell that. And then I made a little bit of money selling the school newspaper. We had to stop selling it. And it was like, well, and why would I do this? It was the whole point.
Yeah.
I liked earning money.
Yeah. I was in it for the money.
So yeah, and then to come full throttle around to now being part of an NGO and a CIC was because I realized that money isn't everything. Like sometimes money didn't make me happy. I actually was on 42,000 a year with one of my jobs, and then I decided, yeah, no, I don't like this.
Yeah,
it's not for me.
Not for me, thank you. Yeah.
And so it is tough having this kind of world, but I also know that just because you're a charity, for example, doesn't mean you couldn't be Oxfam. Oxfam people earn big money.
So much money.
So much money. So like, although I just said I'm not in for the money, I'm just saying, just because you run a social impact or a NGO or a CIC doesn't mean that you couldn't have big stakeholders and monetary investment as an organization. And would I like that for NBE? Kind of, but only in the same merit. Like, there's organizations that work with specific hospitals and have the contract for that. Or being able to work with like teaching to change how we entice young people to become teachers or work in accessible ways, or encourage young people to think about employment in a different way.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave you on a funny one. Okay. Yesterday I was watching a video about what things children say to describe normal adult words. And a child said that cupcakes are just party muffins.
Shall we leave it there then?
I loved it.
I love it.
I was crying.
If you'd like to find out more about the work that Kanndiss is doing with NBE, you can head to the description box where you'll find all of the links to websites, social media, and lots of different ways that you can support them.